smart start for their future with CHIP, the Child Investment Plan from TDC Financial Services. Invest in your child's next step, and we know what's next is always changing.
Chip, 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 we wanna get chip, chip, chip.
CHIP is a long-term plan with no minimum deposit, no monthly commitment, and you're guaranteed a special high interest rate per annum.
I want chip! I want chip too!
Visit TDC Financial Services today and get CHIP, the Child Investment Plan, providing the best head start for every child.
Chip, 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 we wanna get chip, chip, chip.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning, and of course, welcome to this edition of Youth on the Go here on Vaughan Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Ministry of Education Etal, and it is indeed a pleasure for me to be here this Saturday. It is actually the first Saturday of summer break for our students and for our teachers. Our schools are officially closed, and we have brought down the curtains on the 2023-2024 academic year. During the course of this week, we had a few activities, and I'll get to them in a moment, but I think that right at the top of the show, it is important for me to pause for a very important cause as we take some time out this morning. It's the first show since the passing of our former Principal Education Officer and Educator Extraordinaire, one of my mentors, my past principal twice over, Mrs. Jennifer Hodge, and we lost Mrs. Hodge during the course of the week, and I take this opportunity on behalf of the Ministry of Education Etal and all persons affiliated with our ministries and all persons who have been touched by Mrs. Hodge and the great impact that she has had on the lives of her students over the years. And I will take a moment out this morning to pause for a moment of silence in recognition of Mrs. Hodge's contribution to education and building the landscape of Nevis. Her work goes way beyond that, and her impact has gone way beyond that of what was done in the classrooms or the schools, and it has affected and impacted our community positively, and we want to recognize that. So we'll have a moment of silence in honor of the life of Mrs. Jennifer Hodge. All right, thank you very much for joining us in that moment of silence. And once again, for those who just tuned in, we took a moment out to recognize and to honor the life of Mrs. Jennifer Hodge, who was a stalwart in education, who contributed significantly to building the landscape of education, and in her last assignment served as the Principal Education Officer at the Department of Education. As I stated at the beginning of the show, this is the end of the school year, and we take the opportunity as well to say congratulations to all students who celebrated their commencement or graduation ceremony during the course of this week. Kudos to you students. You have now closed out one chapter, and you are looking forward to embarking on a new chapter on this journey of life and this academic journey. And so we are proud of you. For those who transitioned or who are transitioning from preschools to primary schools, and those who are transitioning from primary schools to secondary schools, we say heartfelt congratulations to all of you, and kudos on a job well done. We also take the opportunity to admonish parents and to remind you all that the journey has not ended. You have closed one chapter, and as you continue to support your children through the next stage of their life and their academic journey and their holistic journey, we want to remind you not to give up or lose the level of investment that you have had over the past few years. I know that as they get older, parents, we tend to leave them, and maybe we expect them to be more independent in many things, but I think that at every stage of the journey, the children need us. They need our presence. They need our reminders. They need our input. And so even though at times it might seem like they have grown up and they might not need us, please remember that they need you, and they need you to be closer than ever as they continue on this next stage. I also want to, in the spirit of congratulations, I take this opportunity to commend all of the teams. We had several teams participating in the 2024 TDC Wonaco Morton tournament. And so we had several teams participating across our primary schools, and I know that everyone is excited because we have emerging as winners for the tournament the Ivor Walters Primary School. The Ivor Walters Primary School last one, I think it was announced yesterday in 2017, and yesterday it was a sweet victory. We are so proud of you, Ivor Walters, and kudos on a job well done. The home of the stars shone brightly yesterday, and they really had a nail-biting final match against the Joycelyn Library Primary School, who placed second, and then the VOJN Primary placed third. We want to also commend, highlight, and applaud the outstanding players for the tournament. Let's start with the players of the game for yesterday's the two matches yesterday. We saw Deshaun James of the VOJN Primary School. He was the player of the match for the match of St. Thomas's Primary versus VOJN. And then the finals match, we saw Ajari Cornelius of the Ivor Walters Primary School copying that finals player of the match. And so congratulations, Ajari. And Ajari earned that title in that final match, which was Ivor Walters versus the Joycelyn Library Primary School. Also of noteworthy mention and commendations, we have the batsman with the most runs for the entire tournament, Mr. Deshaun James of the Violet O. Jeffers Nichols Primary School. The player with the most wickets, Mr. Roseanne Daniel of the Maud Cross Preparatory School. We had the best wicket keeper, Mr. Kenroy Fraser of the Joycelyn Library Primary School. Our top female player, Miss Ronnie Isles of the St. Thomas's Primary School. The most disciplined team, the Joycelyn Library Primary School. And the MVP of the tournament, the most valuable player, Mr. Deshaun James of the Violet O. Jeffers Nichols Primary School. So highest commendations once again to all of our players. You did an amazing job, and for those of you who are listening, please know that there is a tournament, or there's a 5 for Fun tournament happening today at the ETW Park from 9 a.m. and we're going to go down to, well, until we finish, but just about 2 p.m. or so. We anticipate that will be the closeout time, and so we have the 5 for Fun happening, and then the top 4 teams from today's tournament go on Tuesday to come up against the teams on St. Kitts. We hope that, well, last year I think we took the top 2 spots. We hope to take the all top 4 spots. So all 4 of our teams, we hope, will do an exceptional job tomorrow for the 5 for Fun tournament, and so we look forward to that, and we'll bring you the updates next Saturday when we join you. We have, of course, with us in studio today some ambassadors, and I'm going to introduce them after the break. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get to meet our guests.
City St. Kitts, keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. And now it passes quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. Youth on the go, whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go, whoa, let's start the show. Let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Navigators, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa.
for their future with CHIP, the Child Investment Plan from TDC Financial Services. Invest in your child's next step, and we know what's next is always changing.
Chip, chip, chip. We wanna get chip, chip, chip.
CHIP is a long-term plan with no minimum deposit, no monthly commitment, and you're guaranteed a special high interest rate per annum.
I want chip. I want chip too.
Visit TDC Financial Services today and get CHIP, the Child Investment Plan, providing the best head start for every child.
Chip, chip, chip. We wanna get chip, chip, chip.
All right, welcome back to Youth on the Go here on Von Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Ministry of Education Natal, and this morning we have some special guests, some ambassadors from the home of the stars. I think it's quite appropriate after cupping that top spot yesterday to have the representatives from the home of the stars with us today, the Ivor Walters Primary School, and they are some ambassadors. We know each month we have a feature from our Nevis Disaster Management Department, the department's education initiative, awareness initiative, and this month we have the Ivor Walters Primary School being represented. Students, ambassadors, introduce yourselves, please.
Good morning. My name is Zahnela Pope. I am here to represent the Ivor Walters Primary School.
Good morning, my name is Kenny Elliott and I am representing the Ivor Waters Primary School.
All right, so we have Zahnela and we have Kenny with us this morning, and the rest of the public doesn't know which disaster we'll be talking about today. So I'm going to have to give them a little bit of a glimpse as to what we'll be talking about. So there are no other storms like hurricanes on Earth. Each year, on average, 10 tropical storms, of which 6 become hurricanes, develop over the Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Ocean, or Gulf of Mexico. Many of these storms remain over the ocean. However, on average, 5 hurricanes strike the United States coastline every 3 years. Timely warnings have greatly diminished hurricane fatalities in the Caribbean. In spite of this, property damage continues to mount. There is little we can do about the hurricanes themselves. However, we can prepare for hurricanes and alert people when a hurricane threatens. And of course, we are in the heart of the hurricane season. The hurricane season generally runs from when? What do you remember? When does hurricane season start?
From the beginning of June till the end of November.
Perfect, Kenny, thank you. So we go from the beginning of June to the end of November every year, making sure that we're on high alert, looking out for hurricanes. I'm talking about hurricanes and just throwing the word around as though everybody knows what we're talking about, but maybe everyone doesn't. And so Zahnela, let's start off by telling everybody, what exactly is a hurricane?
A hurricane is a huge rotating storm with strong winds at speed of 75 miles per hour and above that forms over raw waters in tropical areas.
Okay. And so, Kenny, what are the other names of a hurricane?
Hurricanes have different names according to their locations. In the Indian Ocean, hurricanes are given the names cyclones. In Southeast Asia, they are called typhoons.
Okay. And tell us a bit more, Zahnela.
Also in Australia, they are called willy willies, and in North America and the Caribbean, they are called hurricanes.
All right, and I'm hoping we have students listening, because I think I feel moved to ask some questions today. So we might have some winners. I have some gift vouchers from bodies that I would love to give away this morning. So I'm hoping everyone is listening. Willy willies, never heard that one. So that's a very interesting point there. Thanks for sharing, Zahnela. Okay, Kenny, when is the hurricane season? I think I preempted the question earlier, but tell us a bit more about that. When is the hurricane season?
The Atlantic hurricane season starts from the beginning of June till the end of November. Mid-September is considered the peak of hurricane season. The reason I say Atlantic hurricane season is because the South Pacific cyclone season lasts from January until the end of April. The Eastern Pacific hurricane season starts from mid-May until mid-October, and Western Pacific cyclone season is between May and October too.
All right, so you realize that we have some slight differences in the hurricane season depending on which region we're in. So we're looking at maybe about 4. We're looking at the Atlantic hurricane season, the South Pacific cyclone season, the Eastern Pacific hurricane season, and the Western Pacific cyclone season. Kenny, I think some people might have missed it. I want you to just repeat for us when our Atlantic hurricane season is, and then the other 3 seasons as well. For those who are listening, remember I said earlier I might feel like giving away some prizes, so let's see how good our students are listening.
The Atlantic hurricane season starts from the beginning of June till the end of November.
Okay.
Mid-September is considered the peak of hurricane season. The reason I say Atlantic hurricane season is because the South Pacific cyclone season lasts from January until the end of April. The Eastern Pacific hurricane season starts from mid-May until mid-October, and the Western Pacific cyclone season is between May and October too.
Okay, perfect. And so, Shamala, tell us, how are hurricanes named?
An international committee organized by the World Meteorological Association chose the names. There are 21 names on the list at all times, beginning with the letter A and going down the alphabet. But skipping letters Q, U, X, Y, and Z, the list of names is recycled every 6 years. And if there is a very active hurricane season, there is a supplement list of names to draw from.
Okay, so they have a list that has 21 names, and if it gets very active, they have a backup list. The supplemental list is just listeners, children, they have a backup list. So in case they run out and we have more than 21 storms, which, ambassadors, it has happened. We've had years where there have been more than 21 named storms, and they've had to go over to the Greek alphabet, I think it is, to give us from the supplemental list the actual additional named storms. And we don't want that to happen in the 2024 hurricane season. We want a very quiet season, but if it were to happen, they have a supplemental or backup list. All right, how are the hurricane names retired, Kenny?
Some names are retired or removed from the list if those storms are particularly devastating or cause deaths.
Okay, so once they cause too much damage, they take them off the list because they don't want a repeat of that. And I think it's part of the psychological impact as well. When you hear the name, people get a bit tense. There are some storms you guys will not remember because you weren't around, so you might have heard about it. But my first storm that I experienced was in 1989, and that was Hurricane Hugo. You're looking at me like 1989. How old are you? I wasn't that old then, but that was one of the first named storms that I can remember experiencing, and it caused so much damage to Nevis. We were out of water, electricity, and everything for a long time. We had to get food from overseas. We had Red Cross sending food and materials, and I remember Mutt's applesauce. Y'all know applesauce? We were eating a lot of Mutt's applesauce because that was one of the things that was imported or was sent to us as part of the aid. And Sunkiss, and we had a lot of people lost their clothes, and because their homes got destroyed, and so they lost their clothes. And so we had these orange Sunkiss shirts that you would see people walking around in because those were part of the contribution as well. And so the fact that Hugo was so devastating, that is a case in which that name would be removed from the list. And that's just one example. All right, back to you, Shamala. What are the phases of a hurricane?
There are 4 phases of a hurricane. 1 is tropical disturbance, 2 is tropical depression, and 3 is tropical storm and hurricane. However, Dissipation is also considered as a phrase sometimes.
It's considered as a phase sometimes. Dissipation. Okay. And we'll learn more. Children, write that word down, dissipation, because I think we might want to come back to it. We had the phases presented by Shamala, and she said that dissipation is sometimes considered as a phase. I want to know what that means, and I'm sure you do too, so take note of it. Kenny, can you continue? Let us know the phases, a bit more about the phases of a hurricane.
Tropical disturbance is an organized area of thunderstorms that lasts for at least 24 hours or more and is accompanied by heavy rains and gusty winds. It has little chances to cause a major damage.
Okay. Continue, Shamala.
Tropical depression is an organized area of tropical low pressure in which sustained winds are between 23 to 28 miles per hour. However, at this stage, it doesn't have power to move on to the next step, and it still lacks the true form.
All right, Kenny, you're going to tell us about the tropical storm phase.
Tropical storm is a tropical cyclone with maximum wind speeds of 39 to 73 miles per hour and accompanied by thunderstorms. Tropical storms can still result in heavy rains that can cause severe flooding wherever they make landfall.
Okay, and Shamala, tell us about the big old hurricane.
Hurricane is when wind speed reaches 74 miles per hour and over. The system is now mature and the eye is well defined. If atmospheric conditions are right, it can strengthen.
Okay, and remember I told everybody to write down this big word earlier? I hope they did, because Kenny's about to tell us what the word dissipation means, what it represents as a phase.
Dissipation is when hurricanes turn to be less and less organized as wind speeds drop dramatically and it stops gathering power. Once hurricanes make landfall, they stop gathering power because they no longer have warm water to depend on to power themselves.
Okay, so basically they dwindle away. They wither away. That's basically what dissipation means. The storm is no longer well formed and it gets less organized, and then it dwindles and is no more. Okay? Now, each of these phases is important to us, and we have to make sure that we are alert. Listeners, children, if you are listening, and parents, of course, you as well, you have to be cognizant of the fact that we are currently in July. And according to what Kenny said earlier, the hurricane season started on June 1st. And so that means that we are already in the hurricane season. We'll talk a bit about that as well a little bit later, and the fact that we are already in the hurricane season and what is out there and afoot. We, however, will take a short break, and when we come back, our ambassadors from the Home of the Stars will continue to talk to us about the natural disaster of hurricanes.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
860 AM, the powerhouse.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. And now we're past it quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab the games, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go.
for their future with CHIP, the Child Investment Plan from TDC Financial Services. Invest in your child's next step, and we know what's next is always changing.
Chip, chip, chip. We wanna get chip, chip, chip.
CHIP is a long-term plan with no minimum deposit, no monthly commitment, and you're guaranteed a special high interest rate per annum.
I want chip. I want chip too.
Visit TDC Financial Services today and get CHIP, the Child Investment Plan, providing the best head start for every child.
Chip, chip, chip. We wanna get chip, chip, chip.
All right, welcome back to Youth on the Go here on Von Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Ministry of Education and Talent, and we are here this morning. I actually have some ambassadors with me. There's some hazard ambassadors, and they are from the home of the stars, the Ivor Walters Primary School. We have Shamala and we have Kenny, and we've been talking about a specific hazard, and it's a natural hazard, and we are currently in that season, the season when we are most affected by that hazard, the hurricane. We learned a bit so far about hurricanes and their phases and definitions, and we'll continue to provide some information to you, our listening audience. Please know that this is part of the partnership between the Nevis Disaster Management Department and the Ministry of Education, where we are working collectively to promote an awareness of the various hazards which may affect us here on Nevis and, of course, the Federation and wider Caribbean. And we want to ensure that our students are aware of the hazards and what needs to be done, and that they can help us with the promotion and informational sessions. So our ambassadors from the Home of the Stars this morning, as I said, are Kenny and Shamala. We're going to continue, Shamala, and we're going to talk about the instruments used to measure a hurricane. So for those listening and they're wondering, how do you measure a hurricane? You're going to tell them what instrument is used to measure a hurricane. Saffir-Simpson.
The Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale is the instrument used to measure the hurricane's category or a hurricane's maximum sustained wind speed.
All right, and Kenny, Shamala just mentioned categories. What are the categories of a hurricane?
Category 1 is known as minimal hurricane with wind speeds of 74 to 95 miles per hour. Category 2 is termed as a moderate hurricane with wind speeds of 96 to 110 miles per hour. Category 3 is known as an extensive hurricane with wind speeds of 111 to 130 miles per hour.
All right, Jamala, finished. I think we have a few more categories left.
Category 4 is considered as an extreme hurricane with winds of 131 to 155 miles per hour, and Category 5 is the most dangerous and is called the catastrophic hurricane with wind speed greater than 155 miles per hour.
All right, and therefore we can safely say that there are 5 listed categories of hurricanes. Okay, as I said, our role here, Kenny and Shamala, is to inform persons and to prepare them. And so we have to tell them a bit about what should be done before a hurricane.
Before a hurricane, you should build an emergency kit, make a family communications plan, keep trees and shrubs trimmed.
Remove any debris or loose item in your yard. Install permanent hurricane shutters if possible. Bring indoor items like potted plants, piano, furniture, decorations, and garbage can inside. They can fly in strong winds.
And the last thing we need is for anything to be flying around in strong winds. Have you guys ever been through a hurricane? Have you ever witnessed a hurricane? I'm trying to think of whether we had any if we had any hurricanes in your lifetime. I'm really trying to think. I can't think of any. So you might not have witnessed a hurricane. But in a hurricane, things can fly. And so it's important, like Shamala said, to make sure that you secure everything that may be able to fly or remove them from the outdoors, and so that they wouldn't become missiles and start flying in the storm. Now, what do we do during a hurricane?
During a hurricane, you should stay away from windows and glass doors. They could potentially break and hurt you. Don't open the refrigerator or freezer in case you lose power. You want the cold air to stay in. Don't go outside when the rain or wind stops. This is the eye of the storm, or a short rest. The rain and winds will start up again. Listen to safety officials for important instructions.
All right. All correct. And so, we've done before, we've done during, and now Shamala is going to walk us through after.
If you are a child, do not go outside without an adult. Don't go near any wires that are loose or dangling. They could electrocute you. Be alert for the smell of gas. Don't drink water from the faucet unless safety officials say so. Text, don't talk, as you may block phone lines from emergency workers.
All right. And so we've gotten before, during, after. Ambassadors, it's important for our listeners to, I'm going to go through some of the things that you talked about, and we'll talk about them a bit more, especially during the hurricane. So during the hurricane, because you guys have never been through one, especially when you're young, you're tempted to go outside because it looks very exciting, right? In fact, some people go down to the beach or down by the pier because the waves are so high. They come up, and it's kind of exciting for some people. It's like an adventure, but it's also very dangerous. And so we have to make sure that during the hurricane we stay inside no matter what, unless of course it becomes an imminent danger and we have to evacuate. And we always encourage persons to evacuate before. Not to wait until the storm comes, but to use the emergency shelters, and we'll talk a bit about emergency shelters in a bit, but use the emergency shelters, especially if you don't feel that your home is secure enough or safe enough, okay? So don't open the refrigerator, and especially when you're at home in the summer, what do you do most? You're always hungry, right? During the summer, and you keep opening the fridge, and you don't see anything that you want, and you close the fridge, and you go back 5 minutes later and you open the fridge again because you expect something to miraculously appear that wasn't there 5 minutes before, and then you go back again, and then you go back and you open the fridge again. It happens to all of us. But during the storm, even though you're bored, you want to make sure that you keep the refrigerators and freezers closed, because the items in there can spoil, can go bad, especially if they lose the chill, and so you have to keep them closed. Stay away from windows and glass doors. Because you've never been through a storm, most families bar up or board up their windows, so they put some form of shutters or plywood or something to protect the windows, because experience has taught us that there are times when those missiles, everybody might not remember to secure their materials, or sometimes natural materials, tree branches and those types of things become missiles. And so it's important to put some shutters in place to prevent the breakage of glass and additional damage, okay? The eye of the storm. Now, when the eye of the storm comes, you're going to be so happy because it's going to get quiet. And you're going to think, it's over, and now we can go outside. But during the eye of the storm, it's not wise to go outside, because that's only the first part of the storm. The second part is coming, and you don't want it to catch you outside, right? So, lots of times, the second part is stronger than the first part. So you want to make sure that you remain inside, even though it seems that it's over, until you get the all clear. And I just want to put a little plug in here that if you're like me, make sure that at your home, we talked about that emergency and that communication kit and that emergency kit, make sure you have a battery operated radio in there, because Von Radio as I said, from 1989, which was my first experience of the storm, and all the storms since. One Radio has remained on the air, and we've been able to listen and get instructions. And so it's important as part of your kit, listeners and ambassadors, to have a battery operated small radio in there so you can tune in. Okay? And I know most children don't have radios. Do you have radios? Okay.
Yes.
Do you have battery operated radios yet? Little ones? You need a small one so that if the power goes. I know most people use their phones now, and they go online to listen live radio online, but during a storm you most likely will lose internet connection, and you'll be okay. I know young people might think, oh my gosh, losing internet connection is the end of the world. You'll be okay. You might lose the connection, and so you want to make sure you have a backup plan. Okay? And then after the storm, as he said, don't go outside without an adult. Why do you think it's important for you to have an adult with you if you have to go outside after a storm? Since you've never experienced it, I can only let you guess what you think. What do you think, Shamala?
Maybe if you're a child, you go outside, something can happen to you.
Something can happen to you. And remember, we talked about all of the debris that will fly around. Lots of times you have galvanized in places they weren't before. Some people's roofs come off, and so you have chunks of galvanized or pieces of material that if you step on, they can cut you, they can hurt you, they can injure you. And usually, you know, the area around your yard might be clear and there might not be anything on it, and you might just run out, as you normally do, or rush out, not realizing that there's danger out there. There are nails that can impale you or penetrate your foot and cause injury, and you don't want to have to go to the hospital for a tetanus issue because you got dug by a nail during a storm, because there's so many other emergency situations happening. You don't want to become one of them. And so don't go outside without an adult. Children, that's important. Do not go near any wires that are loose or dangling, and the instructions say that they might electrocute you. Sometimes the lines have power in them, and when they have power in them and you go to those lines, you can die from electrocution because the electricity will go through your body uncontrollably, right? You don't want that. Don't drink water from the faucet. Usually some people drink from the tap, but during a storm, because of the other impurities that can get into the water, it's not wise for you to drink water from the tap until you're given the all clear. And at every storm, it's important for us to text, not to talk, because we want to keep the lines open for persons who may need to call emergency assistance and that type of thing. And the lines will get tied up really fast during a storm because everybody's trying to call. Okay, so just to give an explanation and some kind of sort of perspective for those younger listeners who may never have been through a hurricane, when I was younger and I went through hurricanes, I found them exciting, and that's why I could tell you. As you got older, you really understood the danger. You started to be more aware of it, right? Because the loud winds and the howling and the trees falling and all of those things can become very dangerous. So I'm just sharing my experience with you so you can live a little bit through me, since you haven't experienced one. And my prayer for you is that you never experience one. But in the event that we do, listeners and viewers, we have all the information that we need to keep us safe. Compliments Kenny and Shamala. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we have some words that we need to know as it relates to the hurricane, and they'll help us to go through those words.
From Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. And now we're past it quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. You on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, you on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab your gears, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth
TDC Financial Services. Invest in your child's next step, and we know what's next is always changing.
Chip, chip, chip. We wanna get chip, chip, chip.
CHIP is a long-term plan with no minimum deposit, no monthly commitment, and you're guaranteed a special high interest rate per annum.
I want chip. I want chip too.
Visit TDC Financial Services today and get CHIP, the Child Investment Plan, providing the best head start for every child.
Chip, chip, chip. We wanna get chip, chip, chip.
All right, welcome back to this edition of Youth on the Go here on Bond Radio. It's a special edition featuring our representatives or ambassadors from the home of the stars. We have Shamala and Kenny with us, and they are educating us on the natural hazard of the hurricane. We've learned quite a lot from them, and they're now going to take us through some definitions. If we have a few minutes at the end, we'll ask some questions of our listeners and see how many of them were listening and how many of them were in tune. We have a few coupons left from gift cards left from Buddy's Cafe and Pizzeria, and so we're looking forward to all of you who can call in and win those as part of, to show us that you've been listening intently to Kenny and Shamala. All right, so let's continue with the definitions of words we need to know to keep us informed. What is the eye of the hurricane?
The eye is the center of the storm and the time when winds and rain die down, but it will start up again very quickly.
Okay, we talked a bit about that a while ago. And what is tropical?
Tropical refers to an area or region that is closer to the equator.
Okay, and what is a storm surge?
A storm surge refers to heavy winds caused by high wind and lots of rain. These can be dangerous.
And what is evacuation?
Evacuation, leaving an area declared unsafe by officials. Always follow instructions to evacuate your home or neighborhood, and if need be, to go to someplace safer.
Okay, perfect. All right, and tell us a bit about a hurricane watch.
A hurricane watch is issued when hurricanes are possible within your area. It is issued 48 hours before it anticipates tropical storm force winds.
Okay, and our final term that we need to know is hurricane warning.
Hurricane warning indicate that hurricane conditions are expected somewhere within the specific area and are issued 38 hours in advance of the anticipated onset of tropical storms force winds to allow for important preparations.
Okay, so we have evacuation, we have storm surge, we have hurricane watch. Lots of terms that are very important for our people to know. And I want to hone in, Kenny and Shamala, on the term evacuation, because I talked about it a bit before. But on Nevis, we have specific hurricane shelters in each parish. Each parish has some designated places where persons can go if they are not quite sure that their homes are the safest. Sometimes you know your home might not be built as sturdily, or if you've gotten some special advice from our disaster management officials and our other safety officials, and they have asked us to evacuate or to move based on maybe how the storm will hit the island or any bit of information along that line. And so there is a published list each year of the hurricane shelters, and then we have what we call shelter managers. Now I want to say a big shout out, give a big shout out to our shelter managers, because these are volunteers. They deliberately, knowingly say, yes, I will go to a shelter during the storm to make sure that the members of my community are safe. And so kudos to persons who have been shelter managers over the years, because many of them could stay in their home, right? We prefer to be in our homes. However, they make the decision, and they're very patriotic. They put country above self, right? They put others above themselves, and they go to the shelters to make sure everybody's safe. They have to go through training to make sure that they understand how to respond to certain situations, and to ensure that they can also do what is in the best interest of everybody. So kudos to them. And persons listening, please look out for those lists, which are continuously published during this season. We also have to be careful, Shamala and Kenny, about where we get our information. There are some key sources of information that we want our public to know about, right? So yeah, Kenny might know because he might have heard something on the street, and he might say, boy, a big hurricane is coming and it's a category 5. But that might not be the truth, because there are sources of information that we know are correct. And so we have, for example, the Navy's Disaster Management Department issues statements, and if a storm is coming, we would have a representative probably call in to One Radio. As I said, One Radio has stood the test of time when it comes to our disasters or on various hazards coming our way. And in terms of the hurricane season, they have really stood the test of time. And so you'll hear them calling in over periods. Of course, with social media now, we'll probably have some postings and some WhatsApp information coming out from the Navy's Disaster Management Department. Please look out for the logo, look out for the sender who's sending the information, to make sure that it is correct, right? You want to have correct information, and that type of information will come around as long as we have electricity and we have internet. But in the absence of those, remember I said, have your battery operated radio, so that you can keep listening in and learning. So I wanted to just hone in on those two things: the evacuation procedure and making sure that you get information from the correct sources. I have a few questions, and I don't know if any callers are up. It's vacation time. Most children are sleeping, aren't they, at this hour? All right, hopefully they're up. But we have a few questions. I'm going to ask 2 questions to start with, and if we get answers to those 2 questions, then we'll move on. Remember that we have some gift certificates, compliments bodies, and so we will be able to share with you as long as you answer correctly. Question 1: what are hurricanes called in Australia? What are hurricanes called in Australia? 469-1616, 469-1700. What are hurricanes called in Australia? And I'm going to ask 2 questions from the onset to make sure that we have enough persons, or give persons an opportunity to make a choice. Question 2: when does the South Pacific cyclone season begin and end? When does the South Pacific cyclone season begin and end? And part 2: when does the Atlantic hurricane season begin and end? So we're going to do a comparison between the South Pacific cyclone season and the Atlantic cyclone season, and Kenny shared that with us earlier, so I'm hoping that we remember the numbers to call: 469-1616, 469-1700. Well, question 1: what are hurricanes called in Australia? I thought that this was really funny, so I hope that somebody picked it up as well. 469-1616, 469-1700. In the interim, while we're waiting for our callers to come in, we know that while we're on break, we have several activities happening, and so just a quick reminder that there are quite a few camps and activities happening, parents and the students, and we encourage you to sign up for them. The Department of Sports, the Department of Community Development, well, the library programs are already at capacity, but you can still go in and get signed up to those camps while we are waiting. And we are no longer waiting, because we have a bold caller who's going to win a gift certificate, because I'm declaring that win. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Okay, which question do you want to answer? Question 1. Go ahead.
When the hurricane season starts and ends.
Okay, go ahead and tell me.
The Atlantic hurricane season officially starts on June 1st and runs until November 30th.
Perfect. Do you remember this when the South Pacific cyclone season starts and ends? Do you remember that one?
No.
Okay, it's okay. I'll still give you the prize because I think you were very brave to call in. What's your name?
Levandre Hanley.
Give me the first name again.
Levandre.
Levandre? Levandre, are you do you go to the Home of the Stars?
Yes.
All right. Well, these stars are shining this week. They had graduation. They won the cricket tournament, and they're in the studio shining, and Levandre is shining. So we have a good start. Levandre, you are the winner of a gift certificate, and it will take you to Buddy's Cafe and Pizzeria. Okay? You can collect it at the Department of Education. You're very welcome. All right, so that was Levandre, and of course she calls us from time to time. That's how I know she goes to the Home of the Stars. And we have another question, and that question is, what are hurricanes called in Australia? We have 1 minute, maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds. I need somebody to tell me what are hurricanes called in Australia, and I'm going to throw a second question out there just because I want some more winners. How many categories? How many categories are there of hurricanes? Okay, how many categories of hurricanes are there? Are there 2? Are there 10? How many categories of hurricanes are there? So question 1, new question 1 is, what are hurricanes called in Australia? 1 minute left. 469-1616. Question 2, how many categories are there of hurricanes are there? 469-1616, 469-1700. And as I said, just before the before we heard from Levandre, we also want to encourage all of you, including those in studio with us, to make sure that you're actively engaged in our various activities. Stay tuned to Facebook and various social media sites, and of course community calendar, to get the updates as to which camps are currently ongoing. We have 30 seconds left. I think that we are just about out of time, so I'll give the answers. Any of you remember what are hurricanes called in Australia? We can give the answer now. Willies. I just thought it was really funny. And the next question, how many categories of hurricanes are there? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories. Category 1, Category 2, Category 3, 4, and 5. And of course this morning we shared what each one represents or looks like. And on that note, we thank our ambassadors from the Home of the Stars, the Ivor Walters Primary School, for shining so brightly this morning. Mustangs, great job. And we are going to sign off right now and have a wonderful week. We wish you all the best. Enjoy your vacation. To our students and our teachers and all of our personnel affiliated with schools, we look forward to meeting up with you next week for another edition of Youth on the Go here on Von Radio.
With all the power